In the past, I've done a video on 10 characters who I think should be in the third season of Young Justice. But that was quite a while ago now, and I thought of more choices since then. And with the show's release being delayed to early 2019, I thought I'd do a video with 10 new character choices to give us all something to think about in the lead up to the third season's release. So, in no particular order, here they are. Constantine. Constantine is a pretty interesting character. He's a chain-smoking rebel with a quick wit, so it's hard not to like the guy.
The magic I perform brings people happiness.
Are you sure it's not the 2-drink minimum, love?
Especially considering his amount of magical power, because in some versions of his character he has a near god level of magic. Now, Young Justice is no stranger to magic. It's been a big part of the show since the beginning. One of the big bad guys in the light is Clarion, and the Helmet of Fate exists in this universe, and several episodes have revolved around magic, or techno-sorcery as the show labels it, even going so far as to have all the children in the world, or all the adults in the world, disappear, depending on how you look at it. And even in the second season, it was magic that was used to give Blue Beetle and Green Beetle control over their bodies, and free them from the control of the Reach. So it's not at all difficult to see Constantine coming on the show. And personally, I'd like to see him team up with Zatanna to free her father from the Helmet of Fate's influence.
Please, this was my fault! Dad, don't! Dad!
As both she and Constantine have a long history of one another, and their teaming up with each other could even lead to a Justice League Dark type team forming on the show. Bizarro. In the first season, there is a Superman clone called Match, and it's a pure copy of Superman's DNA. But unfortunately, scientists don't really understand Kryptonian DNA that well, and so there were some issues with this clone's sanity. Whereas the normal Superboy that we're familiar with is a hybrid of human and Kryptonian DNA, which is what kept him sane, though it did limit his powers. Now, the last we saw of Match on the show is him being carted away by the light. But in the tie-in comic book series, we see him years later, and he is mutated into B-Zero. And though B-Zero is technically a separate character in the comic books, they're close enough of a match for it to be Bizarro. After all, the two pretty much have the same origin of being clones of Superman. There's only a few subtle differences. But even if this clone doesn't end up being Bizarro, the Light could easily make another clone that ends up becoming Bizarro. And seeing the team face a threat as powerful as Superman, but pretty much completely insane, would be very entertaining, and very emotional for Superboy, as they technically be related. So I'd be interested to see him in that situation, and what he would actually do to take him down. Which of course would be much like the Season 1 episode where Match is discovered, but on a much larger scale, and anyone who doesn't want to see a fight between Bizarro and the team is either lying or severely lacks imagination. Scandal Savage. In the second season of Young Justice, Vandal Savage mentions that he is a father.
As a father myself, I understand your pain.
Now, how many children he actually have is anyone's guess, as he has said before.
Children. I must have sired 100,000. You'd think one would show me some respect.
But most likely in this instance, he is referring to Scandal Savage, because out of all of Vandal Savage's children, she has had the largest part in DC's long history. She has similar healing abilities to her father, and is a skilled hand-to-hand fighter. And given how she has recently starred in the Suicide Squad animated movie, it's easy to see her appearing in the Young Justice show, as her character is currently at its most popular that it's ever been. And I personally want to see Vandal Savage as a father in Young Justice, as I'm curious to whether she would remain evil and on his team, or whether she would turn against him as she has in the past, and potentially even join the team as a member and work against him and the Light full time. Mixius Pidalic. Now, this one is an odd choice, and I'm only putting him in for one reason. It'd be great to watch him screw with the team. Mixius Pidalic is from the 5th dimension, and everyone from that dimension has godlike powers. In fact, godlike isn't really the best way to describe it. They literally have God's powers. They can do anything, from fly to rewrite the laws of physics, and change the powers that control the universe. And that's why I want him on the show, because he infamously creates crazy situations that really should never happen in a show's continuity. Most recently, on Justice League Action, he made Superman and Supergirl into a reality TV show, keeping up with the Kryptonians. And if you don't know what that's a parody of, there's no point in me telling you. And if he brings his craziness to the Young Justice show, it allows for, quite literally, any plot to happen in the show, and for it to make perfect sense with the show's continuity and timeline. So he is a choice on this list purely for the imaginative chaos that he can bring with him. Superboy Prime. Now, much the same as Bizarro, Superboy Prime has Superman's powers, but he has no brain damage, other than being evil. He's also not a clone. In the main DC universe, he is from an alternate dimension, which is a theme that has yet to really be explored on the show, and it could be interesting to see not only Superboy Prime come from an alternate dimension, but alternate versions of all the other members of the team as well. Now, perhaps this could happen when Clarion uses his magic to open a portal to another dimension, or one of the new metas emerging may have the power to cross dimensions, or it could happen in another way entirely. But alternate versions of the heroes are always fun to watch, just as alternate versions of the villains are. And though this choice is saying Superboy Prime, I would be very happy for alternate versions of all of the other characters of Young Justice to come through as well. And if he does feature in the show, then this would actually be Superboy Prime's first appearance on a DC animated show. Ares. Ares is the Greek god of war in mythology, and he's also a character in DC Comics. He's usually kept in the Wonder Woman side of DC affairs, and in the Wonder Girl series as well. And through them two, he occasionally appears in the Justice League and Teen Titans respectively. And Ares actually played a major part in Wonder Girl's life when she was in the Teen Titans. He said he was her brother and that he wanted to help her and guide her, though this was a half-truth of course, and he was mainly just using and manipulating her. But having Ares on the show would allow for an evil mentor to guide Wonder Girl into all kinds of trouble. Whether they would be related is anyone's guess at this point, but we haven't seen a lot of Wonder Girl. We don't really know much about her either. We don't know where she's from and how she got her powers, or how she even joined the team, because all of that happened during the Season 1 to 2 time skip. So having Ares feature could allow Wonder Girl to become a larger character on the show, and more importantly, allow us to explore her character and her origin in depth, and find out just who she is and how she got her powers. Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is the avatar and protector of the green, which is the power of the plant life of the world. He is immensely powerful, and pretty much immortal as he doesn't even technically have a body. He merely makes husks with his power and inhabits them, and if it's destroyed, he just makes a new one. Now, Swamp Thing has appeared in a lot of DC animated shows and movies, but the character is never really explored in any depth. He features as a hero or comes in for small moments to help. And I think the main reason he's not explored that much is because of how powerful he is. And writers just don't want to have him as a regular reoccurring character, because with his power levels there aren't many threats he couldn't defeat single-handedly. So when they do bring him onto a show or movie, they either have to use him very sparingly or reduce his power levels, because otherwise it takes a lot of drama out of the main plot. But an origin story of someone becoming Swamp Thing and coming to grips with his new powers and his responsibilities to the Green would be amazing. Not only does it have a person waking up with superpowers, which is a dream all of us have, so we can easily get into that story, but it's also a story about someone stepping up and taking on responsibilities, which is a big part of the show, as a lot of the characters on the Young Justice show are stepping up into the legacy of a hero in one way or another. And that's part of Swamp Thing's story that's not really been explored in shows and movies so far, and it'd be fun to see Young Justice go for it first. Atrocitus. The show is opening itself up more and more for space travel. We had the whole second season revolve around aliens and off-world threats, and it ended with a Darkseid and Apocalypse cliffhanger that suggested space and aliens are going to be a big part of Season 3. And if space is being explored, then the Lantern Corps have to be involved. And when it comes to the Lantern Corps, there are only two real villains, and they are Sinestro and Atrocitus, as everyone else is nowhere near as popular as these two. And since I've already mentioned Sinestro in my other top 10 characters video, I think Atrocitus should be in the third season. I would like them both, to be completely honest. After all, if the Lanterns do come into play, then a lot of the Lanterns crossing over would be interesting to watch. But Atrocitus is a must, because he is a very popular villain with a fantastic backstory. He is the head of the Red Lanterns of Rage, having formed the Corps a long time ago to get revenge on the Guardians who killed his family and his entire planet. And he has pretty much the same powers as a Green Lantern, only his powers are fueled by rage instead of willpower. and the man is absolutely insane with rage, and is a fantastic villain when it comes to fighting a deadly force, because he will never relent and he will never stop, and he would be very entertaining to watch. And it'd also be very interesting to see his Young Justice character redesign. Firestorm. Firestorm is a popular character, having been in both the TV shows The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow, and been a character in the Injustice 2 video game, as well as appearing in the Justice League action series. And his powers are virtually with no limit, as he can literally control elements to make anything he can imagine, from turning a birthday cake into kryptonite or turning lead into gold. But he's never really utilised in this way. All he normally does is just throw fire at people, and although that is still pretty cool, it's not really his strongest attribute. Now, in live action shows, that is a matter of budget, as transforming anything costs a lot of money for the special effects. And to be fair, in animation, where the cost isn't such an issue, as it costs the same no matter what they draw, they have used the character's powers more. I'm mainly thinking of Justice League Action here, which has quite a comical tone with this character. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad character in shows like Justice League Action, where he's more the comic relief. What I'm saying is that Young Justice is a show that has always had a more serious tone to it, and that's really what we like about it. And I've never really seen Firestorm in a very serious role. In all the roles I've seen him in live action and animation, he's always a bit of a goof or an idiot. I'd like to see a Firestorm learn to master his powers and become a hero. Or even better yet, master his powers and become a supervillain like Deathstorm. Brainiac. Brainiac is a villain who has been present in an absolute ton of different TV shows and video games and movies over the years. He is a ruthless character with a genius level intellect, and quite possibly is the smartest man in the universe, not counting Rick Sanchez of course. And a super genius who has no mercy or compassion is a perfect recipe for a villain. His character has no limit to what he could do to the team, as he does enjoy experimenting on other creatures so that he can just learn more about the universe, and he has absolutely no morals or regards in what he's doing, so he could be as cruel and callous as he likes, which would be very entertaining to watch. And Brainiac has previously featured in the tie-in comic book series, and since the writers have said that aspects of the comics will be included in the next season, it's very possible that Brainiac will make an appearance. And that is 10 more characters that I think should be in the 3rd season of Young Justice. Do you agree with my choices for this list? And if so, which character is your favourite? Or are there other characters that you'd prefer to be on the show instead? Be sure to let us know in the comments. And I'd just like to say a quick thank you to those who made this video possible by donating to the Needlemass Productions page on Patreon. And as always, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe, share, like, and comment.